Number 15, Tegan Nox. Is there a more forgettable Triple H rehire than Tegan Nox? She made her surprise return on an episode of SmackDown last year to a pretty mild crowd reaction, coming to the aid of Liv Morgan against Damage Control. She'd continue her partnership with Liv, most notably getting a win over Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler, and then a tag team title match against Damage Control where they failed to capture the gold. But after a mystery attacker storyline involving Xia Li that led to nowhere, she just suddenly vanished from SmackDown. These days, you'll mostly find Nox on Main Event, a show that no one really cares about, let's be honest. Considering her close relationship with Triple H, it's surprising that she's been so underutilized in the main roster. Number 14, Emma. Another forgettable rehire, Emma has mostly been featured on WWE programming alongside real-life partner Madcap Moss, who himself hasn't been doing much of anything these days. She made her return in October of last year, answering Ronda Rousey's SmackDown Women's Title Open Challenge to a losing effort. It was a surprisingly competitive match regardless of the outcome, but unfortunately, this would also be the peak of her run. Aside from a short feud with Karrion Kross and Scarlett, Emma has been sparingly used on TV ever since, with their first and only singles win taking place on a random match on Main Event. Number 13, Candice LeRae. Unlike most of the superstars on this list, Candice LeRae wasn't part of the massive firings that happened during the pandemic era. Instead, she chose to not renew her contract after it expired on May of 2022 to focus on giving birth and becoming a mother. Candice would eventually re-sign with the company months later and officially made her main roster debut in September that year, squashing Nikki ASH on her return match. LeRae spent most of her time in the main roster feuding with Damage Control, with her most notable win being that against Bayley. Other than that, it's been quite underwhelming, with the stalker angle involving Nikki Cross never materializing into anything till now. Number 12, Dexter Lumis. It's a shame Lumis had to be ranked so low in the list since he was involved in one of the more interesting angles on Raw upon his return. Yes, I'm talking about Dexter Lumis abducting The Miz. While it ended up dragging on for too long, seeing The Miz get kidnapped by a deranged stalker in the most random of places was way more fun to watch than I'd like to admit. And it tied the bow with a nice payoff as well, with Lumis finally earning a WWE contract and also the money Miz owed him when he defeated the A-lister in an Anything Goes match in November of last year. Unfortunately, after his feud with Miz, Dexter's TV time drastically diminished, mostly serving as a side act to Johnny Gargano. And when Johnny Wrestling got sidelined due to an injury and was taken off TV, so too did Dexter Lumis. Here's to hoping we'll see more of the creepy stalker at some point. Number 11, Sarah Logan. Upon re-signing with the WWE, Sarah Logan was immediately repackaged as Valhalla and made her debut alongside the Viking Raiders as their Oracle, whatever that means. It was an interesting choice, and the trio looked like a menacing force when they destroyed Hitro and Legado del Fantasma. However, the Viking Raiders haven't really had much success since, with Valhalla herself taking an L from Maxine Dupree of all people. But hey, at the very least, she's been a constant presence on TV, unlike the other ones on the list. Number 10, Hit Row. The only reason why Hit Row isn't dead last on this list is because, like Valhalla, they're still being regularly featured on WWE programming, albeit in a less desirable role. But as the saying goes, bad publicity is better than no publicity at all. But before they became the punching bag for LA Knight and the butt of jokes for Michael Cole every week,
my name's Top Dollar. I got knocked over. AJ Styles took me out.
The trio was actually pushed hard when they made their return on August of last year. At one point, they even earned a tag team title match against the Usos. It looked as if management was initially high on Hit Row, but then everyone realized they sucked without Swerve, and then the flop dollar thing happened. Since then, Hit Row has slumped so hard down the pecking order, they've become the jobber of all jobbers. Number 9, Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. The Good Brothers were a big deal in the WWE once upon a time, but ever since they came back, they just seem to be stuck in creative limbo. The duo made their shock return on Raw last year and reformed the OC with AJ Styles, aiding the Phenomenal One against the Judgment Day. This was actually a smart storyline to bring the Good Brothers back into the fold, considering the history between Finn Balor and the Bullet Club. And over the coming weeks, the Judgment Day would constantly get the upper hand against the OC, with Rhea Ripley seeming to be the X Factor until Mia Yim returned to even the odds, who we'll talk about later on. This would result in a massive 8-man tag team match, but yet again, the Judgment Day prevailed. The rivalry would culminate on Survivor Series that year, with AJ Styles facing Finn Balor in singles action, which AJ won. The OC continues to be a unit since the rivalry, but without any good storyline, the hype that the Good Brothers had when they returned has massively cooled down. Speaking of the OC, Michin BAM made her WWE return as part of the reformed OC, with her being brought in to solve the Rhea Ripley problem. And though she also seems to be stuck in creative limbo at the moment, she does have a leg up over her good brethren as Michin was in the Survivor Series War Games match as part of the winning team. At number 7, Johnny Gargano. Much like his wife Candice, Johnny chose to prioritize being a father and left the WWE once his contract was up. But after months of rumors and speculations on Johnny Wrestling potentially becoming All Elite, he would shock the entire WWE universe by making his surprise return in August of last year to a massive pop. And with Triple H now on the helm, it was all but guaranteed that Gargano would have a prominent spot on the main roster. Sadly, it hasn't really worked out that way. Other than playing as the whistleblower on the Dexter Lumis and the Miz saga, Johnny himself has yet to be the focal point of any long-term storyline. His feud with former protege Austin Theory should have been a longer one, but instead, we only got one singles match out of it. Still, Johnny Wrestling has fared far better than most on this list, as he was able to exact revenge against old rival in Grayson Waller on NXT Stand and Deliver, and even competed on the Elimination Chamber match for the United States title. Reports would suggest that Gargano has been out of the injury list for quite some time now, but is being kept off TV for unknown reasons. Maybe a reunion with old DIY buddy Tommaso Ciampa is in the horizon once he comes back. Number 6, Braun Strowman. It's a bit tricky to rank Braun Strowman since he's been on the injured list for the better part of the year. But from what we've seen so far since his return, he definitely deserves to crack the top half of this list. His feud with the Nigerian giant Omos was an absolute spectacle, and the unlikely pairing with Ricochet showed a lot of potential in the short time that they teamed together. Needless to say, big things are in store for the monster among men once he comes back. Number 5, Bray Wyatt. In a perfect world, Bray Wyatt should be number 1 on this list, but a convoluted storyline and several personal issues really derailed his current run. However, we couldn't discount the fact that Wyatt had one of the most creative build-ups to our return in WWE history. The White Rabbit teases were a triumph in marketing in itself, as it spawned the entire WWE universe into a frenzy with wild speculations as to who or what the White Rabbit was. In the end, it would be revealed that Bray Wyatt was the one behind it all, as he would make his epic return on Extreme Rules 2022. What we saw after was a Bray Wyatt unlike anything before. This wasn't the Fiend or the Eater of Worlds, it was Windham Rotunda, the man behind the character speaking straight from the heart about his own struggles. But things started to get messy when we were introduced to Uncle Howdy, a shadowy figure from Wyatt's past. After a middling feud with LA Knight which ended up benefiting the megastar more, we still don't know who Uncle Howdy is and what his motivations are. And Bray, well, he sort of just reverted to his old self again, with grand promos that never really got to the point. The final nail in the coffin was his feud with Bobby Lashley, which unceremoniously got cancelled when Bray was pulled out of WWE programming due to personal issues. This also caused Lashley to miss out on WrestleMania entirely. Wyatt is still missing in action with no clear timetable on a return. Now we don't know the extent of what the man is dealing with, but we can only hope that he can turn things around once he's ready to get back on TV. Number 4, Karrion Kross. After an atrocious first run on the main roster, Karrion Kross looked to redeem himself when he made his return in August of last year. He would viciously attack Drew McIntyre and seemingly set his sights on the Tribal Chief, instantly putting the entire SmackDown roster on notice. Kross looked like $1 million this time around. Gone was the awful BDSM outfit in favor of his old NXT presentation. And most importantly, his wife/manager Scarlett was back on his side. His first feud upon his return was with McIntyre, which looked great on paper, but then WWE realized they didn't want Drew to do the job for Kross. And so 50-50 booking was in full effect here, with Kross and McIntyre getting one win apiece. But then the feud just ended like that, with no rubber match to settle the score. Neither man came out of the feud looking good, and even worse, the way Kross won his matches made him look weak, as Scarlett would always get involved. Sadly, he never quite recovered from this crappy booking, sliding further down the card as months went by. It's a shame that Karrion Kross hasn't quite panned out the way many thought he would, but hey, he still has done way more than most on this list, including Bray Wyatt. Number 3, Bronson Reed. Re-debuting as a hired gun by The Miz to solve his Dexter Lumis problem, Bronson Reed instantly established himself as a dominant force in the Raw brand early into his run. He'd continue this path of dominance as the months went by, destroying everyone who stood his way. Reed's biggest break yet was during the triple threat match at Backlash for the US title, where he looked strong even in defeat. These days, he's entangled in several feuds with guys like Ricochet and Tommaso Ciampa. The only thing stopping Bronson Reed from being ranked higher is the lack of any main roster title win in his resume. But looking at the trajectory of his career, that might change sooner rather than later. Number 2, Chelsea Green. The most recent Triple H re-signing, Chelsea Green has just barely cracked the half-a-year mark into her current run, But the fact that she had already accomplished a lot in this short time is a testament to how good her character work is. Making her return on this year's Royal Rumble, she got eliminated after lasting for only 5 seconds. But Green seemingly struck gold with her new Karen gimmick as it got super over with the fans. While serving as mostly comedic relief and jobbing to other women in the roster, her skits were so entertaining that she became a staple of WWE programming over the coming months. What really made her character take off even more was when she found her perfect pairing with Carmella, as their personalities just complemented each other so well. This wouldn't last long though, as Carmella was sidelined due to pregnancy just weeks before WrestleMania. However, this turned out to be a blessing in disguise as she eventually ended up winning the Women's Tag Team Championship with replacement partner in Sonya Deville. And though tragedy struck again when her new partner got sidelined as well just weeks into their reign, WWE seems to be keen on keeping the straps to Chelsea Green for the time being. And number 1, Dakota Kai. The very first resigning of the Triple H era, Dakota Kai burst into the scenes when she made her return on SummerSlam 2022 alongside her new cohorts in Bayley and Io Sky. The group would come to be known as Damage Control and they would take over the women's division seemingly overnight. As part of the faction, Kai mostly spent her time teaming with Io Sky where they would end up capturing the women's tag team title twice. She also competed in almost every single premium live event since her return, with the most notable one being at WrestleMania where she faced 2 Hall of Famers and a future one in Trish Stratus, Lita, and Becky Lynch in a 6-person tag match. Unfortunately, Dakota Kai would suffer a torn ACL early this May and is out of action for the foreseeable future. However, her accolades alone already put Sky above guys like Braun Strowman and Johnny Wrestling, who were also sidelined around the same time. While not everything has been perfect with Damage Control, as they too have been victim to 50-50 booking, often losing matches that they should have won, it's hard to deny the fact that the trio has been the focal point of the women's division for the better part of last year. And Dakota Kai has played a pivotal role in the success of the faction, which is why she ranks number 1 on this list. But how would you rank every Triple H rehire? Let me know in the comments below. Till the next video, peace.